with that, I'd like to introduce a good friend, a great advocate of Muskie's Inc. Again, we're trying to bring different things to this area, to this club. We're trying to be as diverse as we can. Matt is an awesome fisherman. He is a great outdoorsman, and he's very well-rounded whether it comes to casting or trolling. And we've invited Matt, and Matt's here to give us a little. I don't have, a lot of us don't have the experience when it comes to trolling. So hopefully, I'm going to learn something as much as you guys are tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thanks very much. Now, is this going to work? Hello, testing, testing. You guys out here? All right. All right, my name's Matt. My buddies call me Catfish. I don't really go both ways except for with these fish now and again. This is actually an intervention. Your guys' wives told me to tell you guys to go home, do not buy anything, and you got yard work to do. So, now I've definitely been afflicted with this this problem of muskie fishing. It started back in about 1993. I was going up fishing just with some buddies, and we were trolling across the lake, paddling a canoe in a portage-only lake. And he said, "How deep do you think this lake is?" And I said, "Well, how would I know, you know? It's a lake, you know. We didn't have, before GPSs and all that." And he goes, "Well, let's put these 20 pluses on and see if we can hit bottom." I said, "All right." You know, usually it'd snag me up, but I wasn't that smart back then. So I threw the 20 pluses on, started rowing for everything we had, and next thing you know, we got a fish on. Got it up next to the boat, and we're like, that's not a pike, for God's sakes. What is that? It must be a muskie. So we did it again. It was bigger than the pike we usually caught. It was probably a mid-30-inch fish or low 30s, and we got another one. So we rushed home, got Muskie Hunter. We drove like 7 hours back. Got Muskie Hunter magazine. We didn't know anybody that knew anything about muskie fishing. And we bought some baits. We went right back up, and it was, like I said, a portage-only lake. There were no lights, no cottages, nothing on the lake. And he's throwing this goofy Burmick B1. And if you've ever seen a Burmick B1, they're very, very goofy. They're a two-piece bait, and they just look god-awful ugly. Tony knows what I'm talking about. You can use them as a crankbait, but I think they were essentially made as a surface bait. And I was just transfixed on this bait because it looked so ugly. I thought, and it was big, you know, probably a 10-inch, maybe a 12-inch bait. But all of a sudden, water exploded after dark. Here we go. Here's a little one here. What the hell would eat that, I used to think. And sure enough, this fish ate the bait right at boat side in the dark, just about knocked the canoe over. I mean, it was just a frickin' mess. And I've been hooked. Ever since that time, I do not think I've passed up a chance to go muskie fishing when somebody asked me to do something different. I've been totally obsessed, and since that time, a little history on where I've gotten to fish, because I don't know all you guys, but I've gotten to fish because of Muskie's Inc. and my involvement with them. Most major muskie waters in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ontario, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, West Virginia, Kentucky, New York, and then where I live now, Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So I've gotten to get a little bit of experience with it, and just with Muskie's Inc., almost all my best friends are in Muskie's Inc., and that's why I love the club so much, and always get involved. As soon as I had to go to Philadelphia, I called up Muskie's Inc. and got a fishing partner out there. So with all that, I probably caught somewhere around 2,500 to 3,000 muskies. I've been involved with about 150 over 50 inches. My two biggest fish, this one right here and this one right here, were all casting. And I guess my passion really would lie in the casting for them. I got started that way. Wisconsin Class A muskie waters were there were only 5 lakes that you could troll on. So, and nobody I knew trolled. We all casted. So I got started. That's how I got started. That's how I got hooked. My first time I moved after college was due to I couldn't fish during the week, and been sort of addicted ever since, and making bad decisions and buying shit I don't need. So that's what my wife would say. But we'll go. Mark asked me to do a basic casting from Muskie's 101, and so hopefully what I can do is answer some questions about basic setups, basic baits, retrieves, applications, strike zones, maybe places to get started, such as weed beds and current breaks, mud lines, and that kind of stuff. The agenda, like I said, here's rods and reels and why, lines, leaders, lures, exactly how to throw the bait, areas to fish, figure eights and trigger and strikes, and then catch and release. There lies the problem right there. Rods and reels. That's -3 that the kids put in the garage door opener after my trip to Kentucky last week. Most rods last a lifetime until your 3-year-old sticks it in the garage door. So there lies the problem. What rods to use when? And I would have to say that these rods and reels are all pretty much, it's like any other sport. They all have particular applications. And if you're a walleye fisherman, you may have a certain rod for bottom bouncing. You may have a certain rod for crankbaits. You may have a certain rod for vertical jigging, for casting. And nothing is different with muskies. About every rod is designed to do something. You'll have a bait that'll work best with the rods. The rods import the action to the baits. That's why they're important. The ease and efficiency of casting. If you're throwing any kind of bait in particular for a long period of time, but especially some of the bigger baits, working those baits for 5, 10, 12 hours, it can fatigue you pretty good. So to have the right setup makes it a lot easier. They need a great deal of backbone to set the hook, lay in the lumber to the fish, and obviously the boat's not setting the hook, you are. So you got to have some good backbone, and then it's got to be heavy enough to get the fish in without overstressing the fish. And these fish are pretty, especially 45 inches and bigger, seem to be pretty fragile at times, and so we try not to overstress the fish. Shouldn't be a long battle. I think probably this fish here, 52 pounds, lasted maybe 7 minutes at the most, maybe 5. It seemed like forever, but it was that was it. The other one I got, the next biggest one was 55 by 26, and that was no more than 5 or 7 minutes as well. And so that's a little bit about the rods and reels. Most of the major manufacturers make good rods and reels. I've been sitting with mostly the St. Croix. That's what I started with. Back when I started, rods were short. A basic rod was usually like 6 foot. A long rod was 7. And they were $85 for the lower range St. Croix. So I bought a bunch of those and before I got married. And they've held up very, very well. But Lamy Glass, G. Loomis, Shimano, they all make good rods. Then Thorne Brothers and Raleigh and Hellens make some customs, and there's other guys around that make custom rods, and they can design rods exactly the way you want. The reels that I use, and if I advocate anything, I'm just telling you what I use. I'm not saying it's the best. I use the best stuff that I can find, but I certainly haven't tried everything. I'm not really sponsored by anybody, so I'm not feeding you a line because I'm sponsored by somebody.